Reboot, the show for data-based marketers. The point in the year when a lot of people look at what they're doing financially and fitness-wise and what they're reading, and they want to scope out what goals they want to achieve for the year ahead. But if you're looking for some books to read, I have some great titles which are perennial favorites of mine, and we're going to dive right in and look at all 5 of them. I also want to give you advance notice that I'm coming out with a special tool that you can use on the Funnel Reboot website to find out what books you want to read, whether they be on a particular challenge that you're facing in work, something that you think you need to move your career ahead with, or you're just looking for a book that you can be talking with your marketing peers and dazzle them with your knowledge. Keep an eye out for the Funnel Reboot Reading Room, which is going to be coming soon to the Funnel Reboot website. Okay, let's get into our first book. And the one we're going to thumb through first came out in 2010, which was about a decade into the internet after it had had a very rocky start. This is just when marketers were starting to see their website as a primary channel. Along came Canadian technology marketer Stephen Woods, who laid out a conceptual framework for how they should look at this. And he calls it digital body language. When he wrote the book Digital Body Language, Stephen Woods was the CTO at Eloqua, which was a marketing automation tool that Oracle eventually acquired. Those years, 2000 to 2010, not only for him, but for everyone, was a time when we witnessed buyers using the web to get far along in a purchase process without having to talk to anyone. Corporate salespeople felt cut out of the buying consideration process. If buyers didn't have to call sales, how could they influence them anymore? And by the time they do call, prospects have done their research and will thwart any attempt by sales to be sucked into a needs analysis. Just need pricing information, or if they have that, they'll be pressing for discounts. So the buyers were using the web, but the web is also a platform by which buyers can give hints about how inclined they are towards your company. So instead of just passively watching buyers, marketers armed with site analytics can actively see this communication. Woods' message is that we can gain intelligence from these activities by watching these footprints. Counting visitor signals, not our own activities, lets us glean when prospects shift to becoming truly interested buyers, going from education to active consideration. He wants companies to take their analytics and look at web-based actions. Things like attending a webinar, sharing a post you made with their network, reading your white paper, signing up for your emails. Now, remember the time this was written, 2009. So when he does this, nothing is taken for granted, telling you how to set up your analytics to see a contact submission or making a PDF downloadable in exchange for an email. These were relatively new back then. He recognizes that marketing should no longer be controlled by the madmen. Woods feels strongly that marketing controls this data too. For example, he expects that whenever a prospect identifies themselves, their profile in the marketing database should be updated along with whatever activity they were engaged in. Marketing shouldn't simply just be watching this behavior. They should be using this data to guide what content marketing they should create. When prospects engage with this content, they're declaring that they're ready to take the step that it talks about. And he notes for B2B users that they may be fragmented. We may be talking to an economic buyer, a user buyer, a technical buyer, or maybe a coach. They all hold pieces of the buying decision. Each of them, though, will give clues on who they are. At the right time, that individual can be put in touch with a salesperson who is desperate to put that intelligence to good use. He argues that old measures of marketing are giving way to better yardsticks. Quote, as digital body language enables marketing to move further down the traditional funnel than has historically been possible, it also provides objectively measurable output in qualified leads. That improves the organization's ability to objectively measure marketing, an important achievement, unquote. Sales and marketing can't work separately anymore, though. Neither of them can survive alone, he says. He lays out how leads can be scored by individual content that has been seen. Barely any marketing automation suites back then. Woods clearly saw that would be a killer feature for the tools. He also foresaw B2B marketing scoring leads, sending only the qualified ones to sales, rather than sending every lousy lead. He's one of the first to use the term MQL. He sees companies who master analytics as being able to assess how their value proposition comes across, and tweak it until visitors are clearly showing they like it. This is a dicey area, though, because many companies aren't used to this kind of transparency. Getting them to inspect you as you tiptoe out of the dressing room. Hearing them tell you if your outfit is flattering or not. Taking their critiques back to the dressing room and trying on something else. Repeating that process until you're sporting something that has you looking your best. Companies that get over this vulnerable feeling when they're testing content learn how to snag more customers. Woods agrees with Seth Godin's permission marketing approach when he says we should use data to find out how frequently prospects want to be reached. He also urges that our nurturing messages stick to topics that they asked about, warning that if we lose their permission, it will take more work to win them back. Quote, to capitalize on digital body language, marketers are working with an aggregated view of each prospect that slowly grows and builds on the insights gleaned from many previous campaigns and interactions, unquote. Woods finishes saying we shouldn't view analytics as a way of spying on prospects, but think of it as a way of fostering trust with them. We no longer have to spam them. We no longer have to badger them with sales calls, but we should instead now notice how they are behaving and respond appropriately. Digital body language tells us for the markers for when someone is ready to engage. And our second book explains to us what needs to happen in order for us not to break that trust. Read together, they can help us by first showing us how to listen for engagement and then how to act on it. This next book is Permission Marketing. The internet's first decade saw a lot of people firing up their phone-based modems with its familiar crackle and buzz. But there was another shift coming that you couldn't really hear, but you could definitely see online. Visually intrusive spam. Marketers initially attempted to take over the web by rehashing legacy tactics from broadcast media. They would shoehorn TV and print ad ideas into digital spaces where they did not fit. A notorious turning point occurred when an Arizona law firm headed by Lawrence Cantor and Martha Siegel spammed over 5,000 of the internet's Usenet groups with ads for their immigration services. Treating digital forums like an old brick wall that you could just plaster with a poster brings an instant backlash online. By the way, they were disbarred for doing that. The never-ending digital interruptions caused overwhelmed internet users to start prioritizing content that was relative for them. Old-style advertising was no longer amusing, it was distracting and annoying. Advertisers became in a catch-22, where no matter how loud they cranked up their interruptions and how much money they glutted their campaigns with, buyers simply tuned out the noise. And that jeopardizes the premise on which everything from computers to billboards work. As one saying puts it, if an ad falls in the forest and no one notices, there is no ad. Despite the friction of these early interruptions, the web held such immense promise for buyers that they remained willing to push through some digital clutter. At the heart of this shift was a young marketing executive for a New York-based book packaging business who became fascinated by the internet's ability to foster virtual communities. For him, the internet wasn't a billboard, it was a place to hang out and connect. And it extended to commerce, because rather than visiting traditional retailers, he and his peers turned to the web, where they could research every detail of a product they ever wanted to know before making a purchase. This emerging behavior signaled a fundamental change in the market, as buyers began to use the internet to bypass traditional gatekeepers they consumed. His convictions on how marketers should respond to the shift were so strong, he wrote a book about it. Permission Marketing, Turning Strangers into Friends and Friends into Customers. His name was Seth Godin. Godin's model proposed that because buyers now controlled their media, marketers had to earn attention rather than force it. People will stay attuned to lengthy content if it's for things they care about. But all messages are judged by whether they care about them and find those messages engaging. Once a company finds a way to earn a buyer's permission, the buyer is willing to pay attention when the messages arrive in an expected, appreciative way. That organically leads to a closed sale. That's the same way we interact in real life, and we need to make online interactions work like this. Quote, the vast splintering of media means that a marketer can't reach a significant percentage of the population with any single communication. This is a very, very big haystack, and interruption marketers don't have that many needles. According to him, marketers have reached the point where they just have to approach buyers directly. And this process begins by approaching prospects who seem most likely to be receptive to a software that asks permission to have an ongoing dialogue. Think giving away a PDF download in exchange for them opting into your email newsletter. Actually, Godin's idea there was pioneering for the email industry, leading opt-in subscriptions to become the gold standard by which emails are either filtered out or delivered. Now, this is just the first step of turning strangers into friends, but it's brilliant because the buyer's scarce attention is now focused on you, leaving them less time for competing brands. You keep your end of the bargain by adopting a no spam commandment. After receiving your personal, relevant, specific, and anticipated messages, when that buyer is ready, they'll progress from being a friend to being your customer. And all of that costs a fraction of what traditional interruptions cost. Permission marketing guarantees that consumers pay more attention to the marketing message. Godin's book has endured for a quarter century because its central premise, targeting receptive prospects rather than the whole world, it was this work that helped marketers realize their legacy interruption techniques would not translate to the web, effectively providing a blueprint for new inbound strategies. For those whose campaigns lean too heavily on traditional advertising, this book's approach offers a path toward a much higher return on every marketing dollar you spend. I think it's become one of the foundational texts that shapes a philosophy of how to be relevant as a marketer. The mindset of permission marketing, as we see, is one of relationships. But in order to understand whether what we're putting on our website and associated channels is deepening that relationship, we have to collect data and visualize it. The one tool that dominates this for websites is Google Analytics, which came out in the early 2000s. And in 2010, a landmark book was written about it called Web Analytics 2.0. This book by former Googler Avinash Kaushik considers the ability to analyze visitors on your site as one of the most powerful types of knowledge out there. He also points out it needs to be rounded out with UX, surveys, A/B tests, and competitive intelligence. And he believes that through these types of analyses, we can truly understand our customers. Now, our original data for measuring site visits were server logs, but that was overtaken by something called clickstream data, which is a major improvement. we must realize its limitations. It says almost nothing about why visitors do what they do. By layering on other information gathering techniques, we can increase not only insights into what happened and how much it happened, but also why it happened and how we can make it happen even more. Now, this is rooted in conversion metrics, and these can include whether a web page was part of a test, whether it ranked well on search engines, or if a complex interaction was taken. It also includes whether the visitor is new or returning, what their primary purpose is, and how faithful the page is to the scent or trail of things they saw prior to arriving. Favorite way of using analytics reports is to display one metric by another. For example, ranking sources of traffic by specific conversions and conversion goal values. These results break down big aggregate numbers into their constituent parts, showing the relative contribution that they made to each conversion. Now, with this insight, you can attract more people through that channel or deprioritize that channel because it doesn't yield the kind of conversions you want. You've got to get over simplistic counts and simplistic reports, he says. He encourages us to get away from things like saying, we had a 2% conversion rate. 98% who did not convert are not all there to buy. Surveys and other qualitative methods will tell us what visitors are actually there to do. Some of that 98% might be looking for jobs, or to invest, or to seek product support. So let's say only 18% of them had actually come to buy. Then that 2% conversion rate you achieved was actually well above 10% of that 18%. And we must remember that buying is just one of the potential jobs that a website has to do. One way to gauge our users is to tag not only a macro conversion like a purchase, but also the micro conversions that led to it. We might even be able to assign an economic value to those micro conversions. And that way, even if you don't get a purchase today, let's say in B2B, you may be able to qualify the value that some visitor activities created for your business, other form completions, small actions like that, can still be put into monetary terms. And that way you can calculate how much you should be willing to spend just to get someone to that step, because that step will bring them to another step and another until they buy. And the book not only looks at website data, but he looks at social media channels too, where he says we need to steer away from vanity numbers and think instead of outcomes. He wants us to get so good at doing these things that we turn into analysis ninjas. And these, as he describes, are ready when confronted by coworkers in the organization who decide purely by gut to use data to fight for their ideas. Countering this HIPPO, his acronym for the highest paid person's opinion, is a crucial job for an analyst if they are able to spread a data-first mentality through their organization. And not only can analysts do things like use attribution models to correct misconceptions, but they can even deliver great presentations quantifying what delaying some new analysis or optimization effort will cost. And that way they will be able to constantly be showing value to the business. Avinash Kaushik tells us how we can use site behaviors to know what kind of things to improve. But there's another author that takes this a step further on how we actually implement these changes. This next author challenges us to be experimental, whether it be through layout, UX, whether it be UX, copy, layout, design. He paves a way for us to put these through a statistically rigorous method for understanding what's really working. His name is Goward, and he is the author of the book, You Should Test That. Canadian Chris Goward's passion for conversion optimization led him to write a book about it. He titled it, "You Should Test That," because he wants us to use that phrase habitually whenever someone thinks up an impulsive change to make to our website. "You should test that" isn't just a glib reply. It's a way to net more conversions from the traffic your site already gets. In fact, it deserves to be at the core of our whole website optimization process. Conversion optimization is simply applying the scientific method to websites. The hypothesis is that a site isn't performing up to its potential until it has been tested and verified as such. So you naturally begin with a problem or a weakness where it's not living up. If you flip that weakness into a potential strength, that could be something that you validate through an experiment. And if you end up lifting the conversion rate on that former problem area, you'll have not only proven your hypothesis was right, but you'll have made your website better. LIFT ideology, which is landing page influence functions for tests. And this model gives us several different dimensions to consider optimizing on our websites. Imagine your value proposition is an airplane in flight. The factors that are lifting it are relevance and clarity. Those dragging it down are anxiety and distraction. And it's propelled by the amount of urgency you employ. Conceptually, marketers should know what these are once they've squarely identified a visitor's psychology. That's one of marketing's main aims, and the brand echoes that back through its website. He explains how you can use real-time statistics to give tangible signals on how popular your offer is. These can include social proof, like how many other people are considering or have bought this product, how highly they've reviewed it, and how urgent the demand. And when you put these on a conversion page, they will expose people to the fear and loss they might have, but they'll also encourage them to act now. Some think that conversion optimization is a bit sneaky because the tests are invisible to others. Chris believes that those experiencing a site are voting by their clicks, either further away from the site or towards the site. That website owners have a duty to take that as a sign that the visitor wants an improvement. And testing is how to find that positive experience your visitors want and to give it to them. Often, sites give visitors conflicting messages. He says that analysis and testing can, quote, have a significant impact on freeing your prospect's mental capacity so that they can understand your message. You can conduct qualitative research too, to understand why visitors do what they do. Eye tracking studies, click tracking, usability, session recordings. These can all help bring up a hypothesis that you can then conduct a test on. And our web page is only one element in our journey. They begin with awareness, and it goes all the way to post-purchase. And you need to provide a consistent scent trail throughout for prospects. Your effectiveness at capturing and maintaining their attention is determined by how skilled you are at creating that strong, encouraging, informational scent trail. And much of the book aims to help us know what to test. The book's case studies go through B2B and B2C. As a matter of fact, there's close to 50 of them throughout the book. He encourages us to get very clear on our business goals. You drill from there down to marketing goals, and from there you drill down to the purpose of a site and to the individual conversions that would realize those goals. This helps when you're under pressure to make decisions about your website, because you can then explain back how specific pages relate to the top-line business goals that your leadership wants. If you have more than one goal, you can prioritize them by giving goals different values and quantifying in dollars how much revenue achieving that goal would net. They focus on the science so that we can focus on the strategy. He encourages businesses to make sure that testing is gutsy, because you want to know that the effort that you're going to test and optimize your website is worth the money. He sympathizes with how long it takes to run a test. Smaller site owners can be hard-pressed to reach significant results at the confidence level that statisticians expect. And it's because that depends on the number of visitors needed and how wide a variance you need between the new landing page's performance versus your current landing page. In my opinion, companies should be good if testing their highest traffic pages can get them results back inside of one calendar quarter. Goward is a skilled practitioner, and we're lucky to have the book You Should Test That to take a big subject like conversion optimization and shrink it down to size for us. So thanks to Chris Goward, we know about experiments. And to move from experiments and sustain a rapid pace of testing and using new creative in our campaigns, we need a new methodology. Digital experiences and improving them is different from the way that marketing production went before. Do we have the setup in our teams to be constantly releasing these improvements? Scott Brinker pointed out there's another corporate function that actually is set up for doing this, and they have an amazing process for this kind of rapid iteration. And in his 2016 book, Hacking Marketing, he takes us through it. And that's why I want to finish with this book, because it zooms out and shows us a viable way for doing all of the things that we've talked about. Scott Brinker is known for putting marketing technology on the map. I say that because since 2015, he's put out the annual Marketing Technology Landscape Super Graphic that counts and categorizes all of the MarTech vendors that are in the field. He has been involved even longer than that, though, for a media site called chiefmartech.com, which sits as the intersection of marketing and technology. He wrote Hacking Marketing to help organizations capitalize on what opportunity digital gives us. Brinker's book offers a template for how to bring marketing into the 21st century by borrowing practices from a sibling function. The proliferation of choices we now have in marketing has forced us to restructure our function. As the amount of data and compute has skyrocketed, multi-month or multi-quarter waterfall project cycles are no longer adequate to meet this accelerated pace. Also, the stack marketers use is now indistinguishable from the marketing function itself. It's unclear whether a modern marketing function could even exist without software. These platforms, mediums, and tools hold great sway over what we do. The shifting behaviors can either wipe out the effectiveness of our tactics or bring in credible opportunities. They sit right between us and our customers. So, what are marketers supposed to do to meet this challenge? Brinker quotes Mark Zuckerberg's S-1 filing with the SEC when Facebook went public. Zuckerberg described how creativity can be unleashed by building something quickly and testing the boundaries of what we can do. It's known as the hacker way, which is an approach to building that involves continuous improvement and iteration. Hackers believe something can always be better. Nothing's ever complete. They fix things often in the face of people who say it's impossible or who are content with the status quo. This dynamic is at work in your company. When buyers are evaluating your actual product, they are interacting with a whole other product you've made. From the first ad they see until they buy that product, they're experiencing your marketing funnel. This unseen buyer on your website gives you feedback on your product funnel in the form of clicks, scrolls, and swipes. The experience they have with your company's funnel will often determine whether they buy your real product. So it behooves you to make that product as good as possible. But as optimizing funnels is all software-based, it takes skills like the ones coders have. And at the start of the millennium, a group of software developers met and developed the Agile methodology. Brinker adopted Agile shortly after for the software he was developing. These principles gained notoriety when the book Lean Startup came out in the early 2010s, and shortly after, Brinker met with other marketing leaders to form a real set of marketing practices and processes. Their belief was that the best way to develop a better funnel is through Agile. Think of a website which is always receiving visitors. Agile has a unit of time called a sprint, and these 2 to 4 week sprint cycles allow a self-managed team to define, prioritize, and complete improvement tasks quickly. User stories bring those tasks to life. They're used like a benefit statement that goes something like, quote, this is my user role, I want this desired feature so that this benefit is achieved. And these stories, which are always told from the user's perspective, are rated in terms of work units, and then they're plotted on boards, sometimes like a Kanban board. These tasks that realize the story are moved from the Kanban's to-do column to the done column, and then the entire process repeats. Agile teams have these things called daily scrums, where they're able to manage output in the short term, yet they still keep an eye on monthly, quarterly, and half-yearly views. Brinker encourages us to give each of the assets that marketing builds a clear job to do. He also thinks we should innovate by creating products at the edge of our marketing engine, moving them towards the core of the marketing team's focus once they stop performing. To turn innovations into our marketing workhorses, we must harden them so they can operate at scale and become core competencies. Brinker believes this shift is tremendously empowering for marketers, and he encourages every one of us, regardless of whether we have technical skills or not, to get better at hacking marketing. So if lean management, growth hacking, and rapid application development are just buzzwords to you, I encourage you to read Hacking Marketing so you'll understand how to apply them to what you do. That's all 5 of the tried and true marketing books that I wanted to share today for special episode 225. What did you think of them? Did you like the 5 that I chose? Would there be others that you would put in? So I'd like you to share them with me on any social network where you find me as well. If you want to join in on some of the books that we're going to be reading for this year, 2026, I'm going to be posting those on the Funnel Reboot website and on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to join along, either go to the website and drop in your email or check me out on LinkedIn. Thanks again for joining. Links to all the books are in the show notes. Until next time, get more insight into your funnel so that you can make it even better.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter @Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.